Hey, what's going on, everyone? March is officially in the rearview mirror, and I gotta say, it was a really big month for me in regard to all of my pickups outside of the new comic book day books that I'm getting every single Wednesday. Excited to show these things off with you guys, so stick around. We'll find out exactly what I got. All right, we're going to kick things off with the floppies that I got here. Starting off with a little bit of an old school book here, but one that came highly recommended from my guy Rockin' Robbie Billups over at Pop Culture Philosophers. We're going to be talking about The One by Rick Veitch, written and drawn by Rick here. We're talking about all 6 issues here. I have been holding off on this because it was recommended to me way back in the day. In fact, I almost pulled the trigger on the hardcover of this, but I was told the color work was all redone on it. It was a little bit off, maybe what Rick wanted at the time, but didn't look quite as good as those original floppies. So I made sure to pick those up here. Found these in the dollar bins, by the way. So one of my local stores was having a great sale, and I came across issue like 4 and 5, so then I had to start digging in there, trying to find out exactly what was in there, seeing if I could piecemeal everything through. I got everything except for issue 3, which they did have, but it was incredibly water damaged. So I had to put down a couple bucks, order issue 3 online, but now I'm very happy to say I have the entire 1 through 6 in my collection as we speak. Now, next up, outside of that, I've been working on my Uncanny X-Men collection for a little bit now. And what I'm trying to do is put together the Claremont era of like his mutant, saga, basically, right? I want to get everything from the very onset of Uncanny X-Men 94 all the way through all of his time with the titles, including all the ancillary things, Excalibur, New Mutants, all that kind of stuff. And I've gotten everything done here with the exception of the earliest Uncanny X-Men, the ones that are arguably the hardest to find here, the ones with him and John Byrne really like doing their thing with the title. And I'm down to basically 94 through like 120-ish areas, but I was able to knock off a couple more from my collection here, and we got issues number 106 and 118. So this puts me down into like the 20-digit area for the amount of issues that I actually still need to get for my collection. I can't wait to actually finish this run out and kind of put it in the rearview mirror. Now the downside is that the earlier you get, the more pricey these issues get. So I'm not in a hurry to necessarily knock these out. But when my local shop gets a couple books in, when they get a new collection, they start selling these things off. Well, you better believe that they're going to be putting those in the pull box for me so I can pick them up every Wednesday with my new comics. Speaking of new comics, maybe newer comics, you all know I'm a huge fan of the book Kaya by Wes Craig. It's one of my absolute favorite ongoing series, hitting right here and right now. That still continues to be true. And I wanted to go back and I really want to get a couple copies signed by Wes Craig if and when that opportunity arises. So when it does arise, I wanted to make sure I got this variant of Kaya number 1 signed. I just picked this up here. This is kind of like the Jack Kirby homage kind of variant for issue number 1 that came out here. I love everything that's going on here with the Kirby crackle that's up in the corner here, the halftone shading. It's just such a classic looking cover here by the one and only Wes Craig. This is a fantastic book, but do I need to say that anymore? If you're watching this video, you've definitely heard me talk about Kaya in the past. Again, great addition to the collection here. Love Kaya. This issue number 1, definitely going to cherish it. And last but not least, from the floppies, when my man Madi Keen puts out a pre-order, I am definitely going to be jumping on that as quickly as possible. Now, the problem with that, though, is that this dude, seriously has a pre-order that drops, it feels like, every single week. So I doubled up on a couple of them here, and I got a pretty nice package that came through that I'm really excited to get into, starting with Steel Street's Chimera Chronicles number 2. The first one of this, honestly, it might be my favorite thing that Madi Keen has put out here. Even better than the bootleg Spider-Man, bootleg Batman stuff that I know that kind of really hit hard and kind of put a spotlight on him. The Chimera Chronicles for Steel Streets have been amazing so far. This is a great, gritty story that's outside of Steel Streets. It's like an alternate universe take on the Steel Streets story. And if you haven't checked out Steel Streets, make sure to do that. It's kind of like his homage to TMNT back in the day. In fact, the same way that Daredevil influenced TMNT, TMNT influenced Steel Streets. So they all kind of are supposed to take place in the same universe. So that's really cool. Outside of that, he has a new series that's kicking off here with Yumiko. Now, I haven't had a chance to dive into this one yet, but I'm really excited to see what's going on here. The artwork is fantastic, as you would expect here. Also, in the back, has a pinup by Danny. Are you kidding me? Like, come on. I had to make sure to get that one too. That one has me super excited here. Once I actually get through this, I'll make sure to post some of my thoughts on there as well. Finally, though, he had a magazine-style format, kind of like an art book that came out that I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to flip through on camera, at least right now. But this is kind of one of his books that came out here. This is called Gormandice. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm pretty sure I got it right, though. This is kind of his exploration into shape and shape language here. And it's done through a lot of things involving food and the female form. And I really dig that. There's a lot of cool things that are going on in here. It's cool to see him get experimental, because he's an experimental dude, right? But to see him kind of like take his craft and kind of look at it through a different lens, I think that's really exciting stuff. I'm really excited to see him continue to explore things kind of similar to this, man, because I don't know, you could definitely see that he's evolving as an artist and as a creator and even as a publisher, right? Because he does this stuff all on his own. Definitely excited to look through this one. All right, it's time to jump into the hardcovers and the trade paperbacks and all that kind of fun stuff here. And I'm going to start with one that's it's kind of a blame stew, because the dude is an Alan Moore fanatic, rightfully so. But when I saw this, I had to pick it up at the right price. This is the V for Vendetta 30th Anniversary Edition here by Alan Moore and David Lloyd. I've read this before, seen the movie, but I've never had the floppies. I've never had any kind of edition. I read it digitally. It was definitely time to pull the trigger so I can include this with my Swamp Thing, my From Hell, all the other great Alan Moore works that have been here in the past. And something about this just feels so timely too, you know, with government corruption and all that kind of stuff. Why not put a little bit more of that into our lives and see exactly what can happen when an uprising takes place? Really cool to see this. Great story, great presentation here, great condition here, considering that I bought this used as well. Definitely glad to add this to the collection. Okay, we have a massive book to show off here, but I think it's definitely worthwhile. In fact, I know for a fact that it's worthwhile here. We're going to talk about the new edition of the absolute version of Daytripper. Now, this is from Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba, and let me tell you, my local comic book shop guy had been recommending this for years, telling me how transformative this book had been. And, you know, sometimes you hear that kind of stuff and the expectation gets set too high and it never really reaches that peak of what had been explained to you in the past. No, this is not the example of this. When I tell you literally that this is the kind of book that will change your life, I mean it, and it's what was told to me, and it exceeded that expectation. The story all revolves around a man kind of reliving events in his life that led to his ultimate demise and seeing it through a different lens. Almost kind of like, what was that Christmas movie that they did that in? Gosh, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Totally escaping me right now. Kind of like that premise here, but it definitely takes a look at the person's life through all the different lenses and all the different events that could happen, and kind of shapes how he wants to move forward with his life. Crazy story. It makes you think about your own life and all the choices and decisions that you make each and every day. It makes you cherish each and every moment that you have a little bit more. That's how powerful this book is. If you haven't read this, I don't care what format you get it in, go read it, go enjoy it. Tell me your thoughts for sure, because again, this is like one of the most life-changing books I've ever read, full stop. Okay, here's where things get really fun though, because I feel like 2026 is a different year for my reading experience. I feel like I'm experimenting a little bit more with things that are, quite frankly, outside of the scope of things that I grew up with and things that like really got me into comics in a big bad way. But now maybe this is something that's kind of changing my perspective and maybe keeping me in comics in a different way than what the floppies did in the past. We're talking about manga. So I finished Akira officially for the first time this year. I'm working through Lone Wolf and Cub Volume 1. I'm working my way through the Usagi, huge history of comic books. I'm not sure if you consider that manga or not. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. But now that I'm halfway through Volume 1 of Lone Wolf and Cub, the Deluxe Edition, I had to pick up Volume 2, because Volume 1 is absolutely incredible. I have maybe the first 20 issues in floppy form when they were put out by First Press. Those great ones with the Frank Miller covers on them. But what I found out is that the order that you're reading them in the floppies is different than the trade paperbacks, which is different than the hardcovers. So I had to put everything aside to start. The Deluxe Edition is now my reading order, so I'm going to finish that up. I'm going to jump into this. This has me really excited here. Again, this is going to look fantastic together. They're all kind of this leather-bound finish on here. They look great on a bookshelf together. Can't wait to dive into that. Now, that's just one of the mangas that I got so far. If you've been following along, there was this video that Daniel Warren Johnson put out where he was going over all of the inspirational books. I'm pretty sure he was going through one of his comic shops and talking about all the different comic books that, like, I don't know, the mangas that really influenced him in a big bad way. So I'm starting to check those off the list. Now, the first one that I got here is Spriggan Volume 1. Now, this is by Takashige and Minagawa. If I'm mispronouncing that, let me know. But this looks like it was actually compiled into like an anime that was put out by Netflix. I'm not sure if I want to watch it yet. I want to kind of dive into this. Now, the problem is there's like, I think 6 volumes of this, and you could tell this guy is, it's phone book thick, you know? So this might take me a second to get through. I'm going to try to hold out and actually read these before I jump into the anime. Really excited for this. The artwork looks fantastic, and you could totally tell why something like this would influence an artist like Daniel Warren Johnson, because, I mean, just flipping through the book like this, I mean, you can see the kinetic action that's taking place on almost every single page. So definitely excited to check this one out. Got one more though, and this thing is a freaking doozy. So the other book that he recommended in that particular video was something that I kind of knew tangentially, but I didn't necessarily know. Now, I've heard it talked about a couple different times here, and it's by Hayao Miyazaki. Now, Miyazaki is definitely a name that I know, but I didn't know this work here. He's kind of famous for the studio, is it Studio Ghibli or Ghibli? It's kind of like GIF or GIF. I'm not sure which way that goes, so let me know. But I got the box set of Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. This looks amazing. So in the same way that Spriggan looks like it's the action and the violence and the spectacle of all those kind of things that Daniel Warren Johnson does, when I look through this, I see the whimsy and I see the heartfelt kind of things that you get from those Daniel Warren Johnsons. So it's like, I feel like these two things, the marriage of Spriggan and Nausicaä, is maybe the culmination Daniel Warren Johnson brings to all of his work. Of course, you know, sprinkle in all of the things that, you know, is unique to him as well. But you already know, like, if you've heard the name Miyazaki, like, there's a weight behind that, right? There's arguably just as much weight as this freaking book has itself. So I'm really excited to dive into this. That's going to take some time here. And again, similarly to Spriggan, this definitely has an anime component as well that I'm going to try my best to hold out from watching before I actually read, or maybe I'll compare and contrast it in the same time. Who knows? Time will tell on that one. But really, really excited to dive into that. In fact, really excited to dive into all of these. Some of them I've read in the past. Some of them are going to be brand new reads for me. If any of these stand out to you, let me know what you'd be interested in the comments down below, what you maybe want my thoughts on first and foremost here. In fact, some of them from my previous hauls, like Lee Lai's Canon I read recently, that was fantastic, by the way. It was something I highly recommend for a slice of life kind of book. Yeah, if any of these, you know, stand out to you, let me know in the comments here, and I'll definitely make sure to give you my thoughts and prioritize those first. But that, guys, is my haul for March. Really excited to dive into these. Thank you so much for watching here. April is already compiling itself and starting to get things on my want list here, so I can't wait to dive into those when the time is right. But thank you so much for watching. We will talk to you guys on the next one.